Mike comes up? Because if not, Josh is coming up. So either one. All right, Mike, bless us, brother.
Look. All right, good morning. I am not Mike.
Hey, let me get this for you. We're looking at Luke chapter 18. Uh, Although that was great too. We needed to hear that. So let me read it to you. So it is the Pharisee and the tax collector. It's just, I want to see if no, palms aren't wet yet. So, okay. And my mood ring is not black. So we're good. All right. So let me read it to you. And you know what? We work with what we work with sometimes. And guess what? You're supposed to be here today, and there's a reason, and God is over all. So, so turning your Bibles to Luke chapter 18, and it is I will start at verse 9. The Pharisee and the tax collector. So he told this parable to some who trusted in themselves, and that they were righteous, and treated others with contempt. Two men went into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus: God, thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes on all I get. But then the tax collector, standing off, would not even lift his eyes to heaven. He beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man, the tax collector, went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Okay. All right. So, what's Jesus talking about? And what's the point of it? What's the point of us even talking about this today? So it's a parable. What is a parable? It's a story. It is a story that is driven, it's designed to drive home a point. So you're usually trying to tell your kids something and you go, it's like this. Okay? And if you guys are in high school, you're going to get there and it's going to be awesome. Because you're going to like have this great story for your kids. You're going to have a parable and you're going to go, oh man, they will totally get it now. And you will pour your little heart out in this parable, teach them a life lesson, and they'll look at you and go, yeah, like whatever. And your day's coming. Uh, and if you are over here, we have made it. Okay, so we get to watch our kids suffer, right? And I got to be real. There's a part of it I enjoy it. I do. But we're going to find ourselves in this. There's a lot to understand in this one parable. So we're going to we'll put it back up, starting with verse 9. And, there's a lot that goes into this. So Luke 18, verse 9. So Luke is a physician. He is writing on a commission to a senator, Theophilus, who's in the court of Caesar. And Caesar is a title of the emperor of the world. And this senator's trying to decide whether he is going to go public with his faith. That's the backstory on all this. So he puts a physician, maybe a pathologist, maybe an infectious disease doc, I don't know, puts him on it to research and deep dive who Jesus really is. So this is where it comes from. And one of the things about Luke that I love is he always comes from the left field. And the problem is oftentimes we've just been so acculturated, we're so used to church language, and we go, oh, yes, Luke, yes, that was deep. And it's not deep, it's radical. It's radically deep. So in this part, he leads off with the first parable in verse 1 is about a powerless widow and a corrupt judge. And he's going, never stop praying, never stop going back. And something unthinkable happens in the story because, you think that, the widow's supposed to get what she's supposed to get. She's supposed to get justice. This is the Middle East. Okay, just a little context. When I lived in the Middle East, it's not all that different from here now, but it was so incredibly corrupt. I would get on the phone with my mom, who could not figure out, God bless her, time differential. So she would call, and there's a payphone 126 steps down from where I lived. And she would call at 4 in the morning every time. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this has got to stop. Never did, by the way. But on those calls, I'd be like, hey, listen, could you not send me care packages anymore? And she's like, why? It's because I have to go to the post office. I have to bribe. I have to pay a Captain Crunch tax. Because they didn't have Captain Crunch in Israel. They had, General, whatever. They had General Maccabee, okay? They didn't have McDonald's. They had McDavid. Yeah, little off-branding. So welcome to my world. So to get a big box that my dad and her got at ShopRite in Summers Point would cost me $70. Because this is the way it works. So you don't get justice. You barely get, I paid my $70 and, they went in my Captain Crunch, by the way, took the crunch berries out. Okay. And you know what? There was a prize. There was a prize. I just had the wrapper. Okay. That's the Middle East. So it's this paradoxical kind of story. She's not supposed to get justice, but she gets justice. So don't stop praying. This is a second one in. So if we put up verse 9, that would be great. So he also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves. They were righteous and treated others with contempt. Now, that word contempt, it's a deeper word. So Luke will use it two more times. Uses it here, but when Jesus is at Herod's palace for the trials and they beat him an inch of his life, they come out and they humiliate him. They put on his, just when Jesus is scourged, there's basically, if we're doing a physician thing, an autopsy, in the Shroud of Turin, there is like 720 wounds on his body because these guys were pros. And when you kind of hear about when someone is whipped, well, they weren't, the stuff that was usually RX'd that we read about, that's like Jewish law. Okay, Herod was an Idumean. He always wanted to be the king of the Jews. So he wasn't playing fair, and his idea was, let me break Jesus in front of everyone. Then everyone will know that he really can't be the Son of God, because I want to be the Son of God, but Caesar will have my head, so I'll be kind of the Son of God. Okay, so his idea was that word, exotheneo. Okay, and the only reason I'm doing this is it's a hyperlink. So that word contempt in 9, exotheneo, is used, that exact terminology that Herod RX'd his troops to do to Jesus, to humiliate him and put a crown of thorns on him. If there was a way to twist the dignity and the position and the beauty of who Jesus was, Herod went out of his way to do that, humiliate. So this is kind of that vibe these people are looking at. There's something going on in their soul where they're looking at other people and they're judging them that way. Okay, let's put it back up. So he tells his story. 2 men went into the temple to pray. One a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. Now this sounds like your basic Bible story, correct? Like it does. It's like, what do you think of when you think of the temple? Well, it's a place where God dwelt. Cool. Yeah, good, true. All right. So little bit about this. Chuck, I'm glad you're here today because you're a builder. Okay. So most of the stones in Herod's temple, because there's this temple that we're talking about here is Temple 2.5. Okay, so we had the first temple, which is Solomon's temple, and that is destroyed around 586 BC by the Babylonians. Then they take Israel into captivity, and then, well, the Babylonians get beat up by the Persians, and then the Persians, before the Persians take over, there was this guy named Cyrus the Great, and he was amazing. He was like really a great ruler. And he's going, why are you guys here? And he checks the records and he goes, you ought to go back to your place. And wow, Nebuchadnezzar took all your God's stuff. Well, we better give it back. And here's money, and here's supplies, and here's letters. Build your God a temple, build yourself a capital city again. And that's the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. So first temple is kind of, Solomon's temple, which was amazing. Second temple is kind of, we'll call it Zerubbabel's temple, because he was the dude. That could be your middle name there, Chuck. Chuck Zerubbabel. But then Herod. Okay, we look at this. This still looks like, oh, wow, I have that in my Bible. Okay. Check this out. So most of the stones in that are it's all limestone, not most of them. They are all weighing on the low end. Okay, 1 ton on the low end. So, it's like 1 car. out there, each stone, one car. Okay. Biggest one they have is like 6 tons. Okay. And they're building this, Flintstone style. Okay. This is, they don't have the brontosaurus and all that, but they are literally not doing heavy mechanized machinery. This is like logs, slaves, and they couldn't even use chisels on the site. They actually had to pre-cut everything and put it together. So in some ways, it was totally modular. Like, yeah, Matt, yeah. Matt's parents lived down the street from me, and they took a little house and they created mayhem. And now it's just this big, giant modular thing, and I could see the crane from the bridge in Summers Point, and I couldn't get down my street for a day. That's okay, though, man. We're good. Uh, as long as they're happy. But I want you to see this is a real thing. So it is, at its highest, it's probably somewhere around 7 stories high. So that's about 7 stories high. Think about, maybe like the Crown Bank building in Ocean City on Asbury. Okay, that's what we're looking at. Okay, it actually occupies, the whole Temple Mount occupies 36 acres. So we wanted to give you a very biblical picture of what 36 acres would look like. Chuck, if you can go to that color version I got. There we go. Lincoln Financial Field. Okay, so literally that is actually pretty scale to the size of the temple and the complexity of the temple. Okay, go birds. Okay, so Herod built this magnificent, huge structure because he was known as Herod the Great. Now, a couple pieces there. He was great because he was a builder, and he was a massive builder. He was just a developer. Built this artificial port up north called Caesarea, and it's like amazing. But he built a place called Masada, which was one of his fortresses, he carved a mountain into a fortress. It's like Gibraltar in Mediterranean. Now, that's about all he was great at, because he is also the king who slaughters probably 500 children under the age of 2, male children under the age of 2 in Bethlehem. And at one level, we sing a little town of Bethlehem, how still we see the lie, because there's a lot of graves of innocence there. He went through about 5 wives. He drowned like 3 of them, poisoned a couple of them. Back to the high school kids. He got angry at one of his kids in the pool, just drowned him. So think of Saddam Hussein, and now you got Herod. Seriously, this is like, let's make this stuff real when we read the Bible, because if we don't make it real, it won't touch our lives. So the temple is a place where people would intersect with God. So here we go. We have 2 characters in there. We have a Pharisee and we have a tax collector. So who's the good guy? Who's the sympathetic character? As you read it, just from what you've been taught, like as you've read, who's a person you want to root for? How am I going with Pharisee? Okay, cool. Okay, good. Okay. Anyone pulling for the tax collector? Poor tax collector. Okay, cool. All right, you're both right. But to do this, I want to take it deeper, because if we take it deeper, we'll understand this. Okay, so the Pharisees, the actual word means the pious ones. They believe in God is involved in everything every day. Your life, everything that's going on in your life today, God's involved. But you get a choice too. But God's going to meet you for every choice you make. God will provide for you. That's what they believed. They believed that every word of God was inspired. They believe the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, all the way through the last prophet, Malachi. Okay? They literally believed the law was sacred and their job was to make Israel great again. So they want to have like, red hats with MAGA, they'd have MIGA, okay? Make Israel great again. They are the people's champ. They're like righteous. They're working class guys who have like just built a business. They were just going, hey, the temple isn't just at the temple's in your heart. Okay? Literally, the beauty of studying all week is I get to have my little paradigms, my pictures, my boxes I put people in blown away. I thought they were like, Snidely Whiplash, maybe Old Man Jenkins from Scooby-Doo, that meddling Jesus, they were just going to go do this. No, they're righteous. They're like ultra righteous. Their whole point of all their rituals was like, here's the law. Let me build some more fences around the law to protect the law because we want to train all of Israel's people to be priests and be subjects of the Messiah. That was their intent. Okay. Conversely, the tax collector, if you geek out to history like me, when Paris is liberated in 1945, it's a great day. Or 44, it's a great day, except if you were working with the Germans. They were called collaborators. So a tax collector is a collaborator. Like Rome is not charging taxes like we charge taxes. Rome is kind of like a mafia boss going, hey, yo, if you give me this, I won't kill you today. And then the tax collector isn't sympathetic at all because then he goes, hey, Rome, I can get you double of what you just asked. And they're like, cool, do it. We'll give you soldiers. So it's like a mafia boss walking through the neighborhood with armed guys. They're carrying weapons, state-of-the-art weapons, going, yo, where's the dollar? Where you owe me, oh, what, you put it off? Now you owe me $100. And you have people that can enforce that law. And then they would skim above that, the VIG. Okay, so they are cross between a bookie, a collaborator, a traitor. So what they're saying there is, I thank you that I'm not like other men. See, he's giving you what that tax collector is, and extortioner, which I think is pretty bad. Unjust, an adulterer. And really, we could play with the language a little bit and go, like the tax collector back there. Let's roll it a little bit more. I fast twice a week. That's a Pharisee, not the tax collector. He never fasts because he always eats for free. So, how many times a year do actual devout Jewish people have to fast? 2 in the back. Okay, cool. Thank you for the baked goods. We're not fasting today. No, it's like 1 time a year. And this guy, right, exceeding the law is what? Doing what? Fasting twice a week. And this is factual. I give tithes on all I get. Honestly, it's hard for me to tithe. That like costs me, but this person's just going, what? Groceries? Okay, cool. I'll give 10% to God. This person's dialed in. Okay. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift his eyes. Psalm, right? That goes, I lift my eyes to the heavens. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He's not lifting his eyes. He will not lift his eyes. If anything, he just sits there and is going, my heart is so dead. And this is restart my heart Jesus tells Nicodemus, you have to restart your heart. You must be born again. Radical life. God, create life in me. Be merciful to me, a sinner. And Jesus says, I tell you, this man went to his what? House. Justified rather than the other. I tell you, this man went to his house. And it's a parable, so we can read into it. It's not factual. We don't know who this is, but we do know that Jesus has, in his group of disciples, because he's a rabbi, he has a tax collector. And again, I love any depiction of the Bible. It gives us a different look. But I don't think, the other gospel writer, Matthew, is more like, I don't think he's like Zuckerberg. Like, I like The Chosen. Said I wouldn't do this, but I lied to myself. There you go. I've got issues. Okay? No, I think I could find Matthew somewhere in South Philly. I had an Uncle Johnny. No offense. An Uncle Johnny. Okay, an Uncle Johnny. And he's like, yo, who's like Nicky Scarfield? Yeah, I don't know who he is. Okay, yeah, he was that guy. I wanted to give my dad a chain of cleaning stores. High school advice: if Uncle Johnny wants to give you a chain of cleaning stores, don't take it. Run away, because then you're gonna end up in like Joe Pesci's trunk. Okay, in Goodfellas. Okay, that's the world. Okay, so this is like the idea is. And I'm sitting in my little group yesterday, and we're doing this thing, and like we have this group, this R group after Men of the Cross, and we're doing the last. Everyone else is gone. They left us to run the store, and we have this one exercise, right? And it's like, this is where I see God in you, and people go around, and then this other part of like, this is what's, the light I see in you is this. And then the other part is the part of you that's blocking God's light in your own life is this. And I had this awareness. Like, one, we should never be left alone again because we were like a half hour over. Okay, so we need adult supervision. But I am both guys. And one of the things, because I'll tell my story, I won't tell anyone else's story. Someone says to me, going, you are so hard on yourself. You are so critical of yourself. You don't give yourself a break. And I don't. If you know me, I don't. And then they just start doing this thing that's like radically uncomfortable. And they tell me how they see Jesus show up in my life. We're both. We're both. And when I am in a self-righteous posture, I am literally whipping myself. I am humiliating myself like Herod literally humiliated Jesus. I'm doing damage to myself. I'm wondering if I'm the only person who does that. Okay? Now, you don't have to put your hand up. If you want, that's cool. We can make it a little real. And if you don't, that's great. God bless. Okay, I do. Now, and I tell myself something that's really twisted. You want to hear the twisted thing? Well, you do. Okay, here's the twisted thing I say. If I'm not hard on myself, like, I'm going to slip. If I'm not hard on myself, like, I know what it's like to just not be hard on myself. And my life fell apart. But then I'm going, maybe The reality of that statement was, I was so hard on myself, I destroyed my soul. And when I destroy my soul, then I will not operate as God's. Saint Irenaeus said this: the glory of God is found in a human being, a man or woman, who is fully alive. The imago Dei, the image of God, is his glory is his radiance shining off of us. So we're going to move into this posture now. We call it communion. Having heard this story, and when we do communion, it's not because it's going to keep the devil away. It might. It's a good step. We're not going to go to communion because necessarily we feel truly worthy. Maybe some of us are feeling really good going into today, and that's cool. Not taking that away. Because like Christianity, this following of Jesus, the way of the resurrection is not based on should or ought. It's based on gratitude and presence. We are grateful. I am grateful for the presence of Jesus in my life. It's also knowing I don't have to be Jesus. I am not Jesus. I am one of his beloved. You're not Jesus, but you're one of his beloved. And we come to a table to remind us of that. Like, we are not the sin reduction party, okay? We don't come here because if we come here to just go, oh, well, okay, it's a box to check. Yeah, no. But if we're going, it's a box to check to just keep me alive and engaged. Cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into a posture of communion. And we're going to have Charles do this.
So as the elements begin to be passed out, this is an opportunity to search your heart and know that all is partake.
The traitor, the tax collector, my own darkness, my own brokenness, my own false selves that cover my separation from God. And the word mercy goes back to the mercy seat where the actual presence of God would inhabit. Jesus promised Abraham, tracking from last week, that he would be the atonement offering of all atonement offerings. And as we were thinking about, I was thinking about the temple as I was teaching today, I was thinking, Larry teaches on this because he loves Hebrews. And Hebrews, Jesus is both the high priest and the sacrifice. But Jesus only has to offer one sacrifice, and that was himself. And I don't understand how he can do that. I love that he can. In a distant country that we have to deep dive to even understand, in a different culture, the author of life, the sinless one, takes on the sin of the universe, of his creation. My sin, your sin. And he sheds that blood. And on that Passover meal that goes before his crucifixion, he takes the cup and he says, this cup represents my sacrifice for you. This wine represents the blood poured out for you so your sins can be forgiven. And I'm wondering when that happened, if some of his disciples were thinking about his first miracle, that party they were at in Canaan. It was the best wine. And then they thought about him going to go prepare a place for them, for me. Because heaven is pictured as a homecoming. It's a picture of a wedding reception that never ends. And all is made right. And every time you are misunderstood, God sets it all right then. That's what we look forward to. So as you take the cup, this is the cup of the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, and the creator of the universe who calls you back to the table. Let's take and let's drink. We've heard about a story. We put ourselves in the story. We've affirmed the covenant that Jesus makes to us. And we're going to do what his followers did. Before they left that room, they sang a hymn. God bless you guys.